Candace Owens disrespected Taylor Swift and Beyonce. And let's react to it. Let's see if I agree or disagree with Candace Owens. Let's get into this video.
Hey everybody, very happy to say that today we are recording from my new set. I hope you guys like it. What are we discussing on today's show? Well, the internet was very surprised to learn yesterday that Black women do not like Taylor Swift. That arrived as some very shocking news to a lot of people. I'm going to explain to you why that is. Plus, later on in the show, the internet is...
When did Candace Owens become the arbiter of what Black women think? She's not wrong, though, about Taylor Swift. But I don't think it's about Black women not liking Taylor Swift specifically, but more about Black women not liking what Taylor Swift represents. You know, I personally love Taylor Swift. I don't like what she represents. And I don't like how they sort of attached her brand to Beyonce's to give her sort of like clout and attention, especially within the Black community. Let's keep going.
Also very divided after learning that a Florida private Christian school expelled 2 of its students after their mother advertised her OnlyFans page on her car. Should they have expelled those students? Yes? No? What do you guys think? All that and more today coming up on Candace Owens. So, you know, we do this thing at the Daily Wire, which is called Backstage Live, where me and all the other hosts sit down and we just talk about various subjects, things that are going on in the news, things that are going on culturally. And a clip from Backstage went viral when it got to the discussion regarding Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce's romance. And what was really interesting, I mean, it really accumulated about 5 million views in less than 24 hours. And what was interesting is the way the internet responded to the clip. There was a very clear racial divide. A lot of course, Swifties, as they call themselves, were very upset. Younger white women, no, she's our queen. But Black women were like, no, yes, Taylor Swift is very toxic. So before we get into why Black women feel that way, I'll first let you guys listen to that clip from Backstage. Take a listen.
If your employees are traveling, you have to try Navan. Navan is a travel and expense tool that works for you and your team, not the other way around.
Obviously, if you've seen what she's even done in business and how she tries to manipulate her audiences, like to get out of like deals and contracts, like she's totally insane. Yeah. Like she's the most toxic feminist that's ever existed. And what she does is basically the threat is that if she doesn't get what she wants, she writes a song about a guy and then has 15 million girls singing the songs and drops little clues so they know who it's about. I mean, it's totally psychotic if you really think about it. I don't think you appreciate how psychotic that is, that you can't date her for 2 weeks without her writing a song about you. I mean, what she did to John Mayer as well, he was like, I literally did nothing to her. Like we went on one date and I didn't deserve this.
You're ruining
And then there's a bunch of like 10-year-old girls whose brains are not developed who then go and attack whoever it is. Like Scooter Braun's family, his young kids literally had to go into hiding and get security because Taylor Swift wanted out of the deal that he legally purchased her catalog of music. Yeah. And she wrote this, you have to go find it on Tumblr, this like glorious rephrasing of basically like, my dad signed a contract, a legally binding contract for me when I was 15. He now has the catalog because he purchased it. And she was just like, you know, as a woman, I sat on the floor and I wrote these songs. And then they tried to kill Scooter Braun's family. And he did nothing wrong other than purchase her catalog.
But you know, well, you just said his family, her fans are 10-year-olds. So how are 10-year-olds going to kill his family?
You know, and he only had it for like 6 months before he let somebody else purchase it, but like she hated Scooter Braun. So yes, as I said, this clip went absolutely viral. And when it hit Instagram, a lot of the comments revealed that Black women very much agree with my assessment. I'll just read a couple of these comments here. Tickle Pink wrote, basically, she's saying she plays a Karen very well.
How do we know these are Black women? Any bots, anybody can, like, it's so funny. Okay, I want people to understand what is happening here. And by the way, if you feel like you don't want me pausing this video all the time, go watch the Candace video and come back here. But I want to give you my thoughts as I watch this in real time. So number one, I want to say that, first of all, let's understand what's going on right now, right? There is an agenda from the right wing to cultivate as many or deter as many Black voters as possible from going to vote, and especially from voting for Joe Biden. They want, you know, the black voters that will sit on the couches and not go vote, that's what they want. And look, over here, I'm independent. I'm not liking what's going on with the Democratic Party. And I'm definitely not voting for Trump. So it's an interesting place to be in, where a lot of black voters are somewhere in the middle, and they just they're not inspired by what we're seeing. And Candace Owens is a voice that has been very, very derogatory, not worse than, she's like the COON that has attacked marginalized groups that can't defend themselves. Candace Owens, notice how she always will say something come for women. She tries to find these avenues that she can tap into different markets to cajole and bring them into the right-wing white supremacist agenda. And I'm not saying the left isn't white supremacist either. I did not say that. They definitely are. But I just want people to be aware and conscious of what is going on. So there's an agenda, right? Candace Owens can see that right now, the right wing, they hate Taylor Swift simply because she supported Donald Trump she supported Joe Biden in the last election. She supported, she seems to be, she's very left leaning, very much an advocate for the left. And they see her as a major threat because she's this big superstar, and the right wing are threatened by her. So now they're doing everything they can to attack her person, attack her character, and therefore attack her influence. And so when it comes to Candace Owens, she's just, doing what her master says she should do, by trying to, garner the black women. Now today she wants to advocate for black women, that she wants to talk about the hatred of Taylor Swift. Tomorrow she's with the manosphere denigrating women. But Candace Owens only ever disrespects marginalized groups, trans folk, black women in general. These are the groups that people that are her, basically. This is the self-hating COON that I'm talking about, right? Somebody that is, you betray your own people for a quick dollar. You don't even own the Daily Wire. You have no ownership, no equity in it. You are essentially a slave to them. And that's what you do. And it's very dangerous if we just take what Candace says and buy into it. Granted, I've watched this video. A lot of what she says is true about Taylor Swift, but don't be confused. Don't be confused and think, oh, she's trying to make her content more palatable. That's what she's been doing for the past, I want to say this year from January. She's been making her content a lot more palatable and more neutral to attract black people, to cajole you, to convince you not to vote for Joe Biden. And I'm not saying don't. I watch her videos, like they're funny. She's funny, but have some critical thinking. Don't just watch it and forget all the time she betrayed black people, all the time she betrayed us. And just to finish my point, notice how Candace will never, ever in her right mind say anything derogatory towards Jews or towards gay people. She'll talk about trans folk, but she's never gonna come for the gay community, because when she comes for gays, she knows she will be canceled. When she comes for Jews, she knows she will be canceled. Remember when she had that whole fight with Ben Shapiro, and she went on a lot of these right wing, because white supremacists, true European white supremacists, they hate Jews. That's the fact, right? The Jews are on the left, right? The right wing, they hate the Jews. And Candace Owens knows this. Candace Owens is aware of this, but because of the power within the Jewish community, Candace Owens is being very careful and delicate with her words. When she was talking about Palestine, Ukraine, she was very, very delicate with addressing the Jewish community. I wish I could even find the video and find the way that she so softly and delicately was addressing how we're allowed to disagree with you, right? Because she's afraid. of losing literally her revenue stream. I don't know. I think Ben Shapiro basically owns the Daily Wire. I know he owns shares in it. So I don't think he could just fire her, but she has a Jewish employer. She can't just say whatever she wants to say about Jewish people. She knows she'll get canceled. She'll know she'll be out of a check, out of a dollar. But, she's not going to come for the, LGBT. Well, she'll come for the T. She's not going to come from the LGB, because that LGB is emphasis on the G, has a lot of power. So she chooses very wisely who she's going to come for. Marginalized groups that cannot defend themselves. Black people, Black women. These are the groups she attacks. So don't be silly and don't buy into Candace Owens' schemes. But this Taylor Swift thing that she says, there is truth to it. Let's keep going.
This user wrote, I mean, she's not wrong. We all know this, LOL. But yeah, she's an amazing artist and all, but I definitely understand where Candace is coming from. She basically plays a Karen pretty well, and there's plenty of girls with those ways, which is toxic, LMFAO. And by the way, this is something that has been well understood all across Black America. I'll also let you watch this.
I speak for Black America now. It's so crazy. I mean, she's not wrong. Like, people don't like Taylor. And I totally get it, but Candace Owens is not the arbiter. She's telling her white audience, look what Black America, I'm the arbiter. No, we don't listen to Candace Owens. We don't like her. She knows we don't like her. So I don't know why she's coming here doing this
clip
now.
When a newscaster asked somebody their opinion about Taylor Swift recently. Take a listen.
Taylor Swift uses feminism to tell people they can't be mean to her instead of using it for its actual purpose. I don't know. It's just like the people she dates are like, I don't know. I just feel like it's not giving, like she's using it for quite the right reasons.
Cloudy.
Yeah, just like the whole Matty Healy thing and then Ice Spice. It was just like, it wasn't giving. Yeah.
Very interesting. A couple of things. She mentions Ice Spice. We'll get to that. But she also says Taylor Swift uses feminism so that people can't be mean to her. And yeah, that's very true. Let's start with Scooter Braun, who I mentioned on that clip. Scooter Braun manages a ton of artists. He owns his own label, his own holdings companies, and he keeps purchasing more record labels under that holding company. So let's back up and talk about who Taylor Swift is, because she's not exactly your typical artist who really had to break the bank to make it. I always say this, but if Taylor Swift wasn't one of the most famous people in the world, she would have had to settle with just being a rich girl.
Why do they act like that's such a bad thing? Okay, her forefathers were wise enough to invest their money. Her father was successful. It should tell you that she has the DNA and the training of someone that's going to be successful. I hate this sort of glamorization of rags to riches in our culture that just sort of celebrates the loss of generational wealth building. Her father is a G. He was able, sure, he's white in America. Great. That's another conversation. But he was able to make money and he showed his daughter how to do that. Why is that something to be ashamed about?
Yeah, her father was a stockbroker for Merrill Lynch. Her mom was a mutual fund marketing executive. So they had a lot of experience and they very much understood finance. That's what I want you to take away from that. They understood finance.
That sounds like they are incredible people.
So in 2004, right shortly before 2004, they moved the entire family down to Nashville, and her father decided that he was going to work from Merrill Lynch in Nashville. And then in 2004, Taylor Swift met Scott Borchetta, who was just starting his record label, which was called Big Machine. And Taylor Swift was one of its first signings. Big Machine signed Taylor Swift and took a chance on her, having no idea how big she was going to be. But her father obviously sat down with a team of lawyers because he was a stockbroker, and he decided that he was also going to purchase 3% of that company. So her father became a partial owner of the company in which Taylor Swift was signed to. A very good deal, especially if you don't think your daughter is going to be the biggest pop star in the entire world. The thing is, he agreed to the terms. Years later, they decided to sell that company. There was only 5 owners of that company, one of which was Scott Swift, Taylor Swift's father. And they said, we're going to sell this. And Scooter Braun was interested in buying it. And he did purchase it. So it was rather shocking, or it should have been shocking if you weren't, a 15-year-old prepubescent girl who follows Taylor Swift and doesn't understand business, when Taylor took to Tumblr and said she had no idea that her catalog of music, her masters, was being sold. What do you mean you have no idea? She wrote this in part. For years, I asked, pleaded for a chance to own my work. Music I wrote on my bedroom floor and videos I dreamed up and paid for from the money I earned playing in bars, then clubs and arenas, then stadiums. Some fun facts about today's news. I learned about Scooter Braun's purchase of my masters as it was announced to the world. All I could think about was the incessant manipulative bullying I've received at his hands for years. Like when Kim Kardashian orchestrated an illegally recorded snippet of a phone call to be leaked. And then Scooter got two of his clients together to bully me online about it. This is my worst case scenario. When I left my masters in Scott Borchetta's hands, I made peace with the fact that eventually he would sell them. Never in my worst nightmares did I imagine the buyer would be Scooter. That's incredibly manipulative. Again, at this time, Taylor Swift is what? 32 years old, a 32-year-old woman manipulating her fan base, using all the right buzzword. I dreamed up on my floor, I wrote these songs, blah, blah, blah. Missing from this, of course, because it's meant to send her fans into attack mode, is the fact that her dad was a partial owner of the company. Yes, Scott Swift made $15 million from the sale of that catalog. Never mentioned her dad, which you would have to be, like I said, have a very low business acumen to believe that Scott Swift, who is one of 5 owners of this company, was not aware of the sale. And of course, Scooter.
So, I mean, as somebody that goes to Harvard Business School, Candace Owens sounds like she doesn't have business acumen. A few things. So you can sell a company without, fair enough, he was paid off, so he must have known about the deal. But you can sell a company without knowing that someone else has in the company that owns shares has, like for example, Jay-Z, right? Jay-Z owned, I believe, 50% of Rockefeller Records, right? Damon Dash owns 50%. Jay-Z did a sneak deal, sold his shares without Damon Dash's knowledge, right? This is possible. You can sneak sell your shares, just like in the stock market. You can sell your shares and people don't necessarily know, right? You can sell a company and be an owner, right? Without knowing that somebody else that owns shares in the company, without the other people that own shares in the company knowing that you sold it. So that's different. Now, this idea that he actually got paid out, I didn't see the evidence that he got $13 million from the deal. So that's another thing where's Candace getting her information from? Because I remember when this stuff came out, didn't see that he got $13 million from the deal. If he did, yeah, that means he sold his shares also, right? Or he sold his shares, did not know who was the buyer, because that's also a possibility. People can buy out a company, right, without just revealing the owner. There's so many companies that you won't even know who owns it. So for Candace to say, Taylor Swift fans have no business acumen because obviously her father got paid out and obviously her father knew, no, like he doesn't necessarily know. Yeah, 9 times out of 10, it's probably the instance that he did know about it and he did sell. But there are ways for you to buy things without revealing who the owner of the company is. There's so many business clauses that you can do that. And I can sell my shares in a company without someone else that owns shares in that company knowing about my sale. Until it's announced in the public. That's what Jay-Z did to Damon Dash that caused their years-long, decades-long feud. I want to give you a great example of this with Disney. Disney, when they were starting out Disneyland, they had this sort of company. Normally the way that you would structure the company is that it's in a trust and there are different ways that you can do to hide who actually owns that company. So Disney had this sort of company, what it was, a company that nobody knew that Disney owned. And they went in to buy out all the land in Florida, but because they didn't want people to know that Disney was buying the company or buying the land, That's why they use this company, and they hid the fact that it was owned by Disney. They buy out the land in Florida for cheap. They turn it into Disneyland. So it sounds like Candace Owens has low business acumen, because, you know, what she's saying, it's very possible that what Taylor is saying is true. We don't know the intricacies of the deal. She's claiming that he made a $13 million. Did he know who owned the company? Don't know that. Have to see evidence that he did. And did he actually sell his shares in the company for $13 million? Don't know that either. So, I don't know, Candace.
Scooter Braun said this. Scott Borchetta came out and said this. They said, no, she was very much aware. She was offered a chance to buy it, but it didn't matter, because the purpose of her writing that post was for the young fans to attack and threaten to kill Scooter Braun. She knows that's how her fans are, and that's exactly what they did. In fact, Scooter Braun pleaded with her to stop doing this because his 3 young children's lives were being threatened by her fan base. He wrote publicly, I assume this was not your intention, but it is important that you understand that your words carry a tremendous amount of weight and that your message can be interpreted by some in different ways. He also made it clear to her that he wanted to rectify the situation, that he was open to all possibilities in this public letter that he wrote to her, pleading for a resolution. But he admitted in that letter that many people had told him that it was unlikely that he and Taylor would ever meet face-to-face because she's much more interested in creating her own narrative. Essentially, he was being told that she is manipulative. Scott Borchetta, by the way, the person who owned the company with her father and agreed to sell the company, her catalog rather, with Scott Swift, her father, openly said that the singer was being misleading about the situation, and he claimed that she very much had an opportunity to buy her own catalog. Like I said, it didn't matter. And
that's a he said, she said situation that has not been proven. So who are we supposed to take? Who naturally are people going to take their side? It's going to be the famous person.
Never rectified the situation, and her fans to this day threaten Scooter Braun and his family because they think that she was used.
So she keeps contradicting herself. We're supposed to think Taylor Swift's fans are these 10-year-old little girls, and then now you're saying they're murderers. Contradiction. But obviously, yes, people do have unstable fans. I've been threatened by Nicki Minaj fans. These people are crazy too. So I get the turbulence that her words would have caused for Scooter Braun. And by the way, I'm not supporting Taylor Swift here, because at the end of the day, like I said earlier, I don't like what Taylor represents. So I understand this perspective completely.
That is toxic femininity. That is why I say that what we're living right now is in a matriarchy, and it's a bunch of women pretending that women are the victims when in fact they yield a ton of power.
This is the gaslighting. This is the attack. She always finds a way to turn it back on women, always goes after the most vulnerable in society. Now saying that we have this secret power over men. Like, seriously? Gaslighting women, coming for trans folk, coming for black people, never coming for people in positions of power. She'll never come after a white man. Maybe a white man as an individual, but she will never come out of white men as a group, because she respects and fears her life, right? She fears them. She'll never come after gay people. Notice she'll talk about the LGBT. She'll say the alphabet. She will never come after gay people, because she knows how much power, especially white men in the gay community, yield. She will never come after Jewish men, Jewish people. She never will. Notice that. Notice who she picks to come after, the most vulnerable in society.
So why would she do something like that to Scooter Braun? Well, because if you learn anything about Taylor Swift, she likes to use her fan base to right perceived wrongs. In one situation that she held on to for a very long time, which she mentioned in that post, which is probably the biggest contributor to why Black Americans do not like Taylor Swift, was related to a situation pertaining to Kanye West and Kim Kardashian. So I'm going to ask you guys to park aside your feelings about Kanye West. It doesn't actually matter. I want you to objectively look at this situation. Kanye West dropped a song, and the song was entitled Famous. The first lines of the song were, To all my South Side N-words that know me best, I feel like me and Taylor might still have sex. Why? I made that B-I-T-C-H famous. I made that B-I-T-C-H famous. So when her fans, her Swifties, got wind of these lyrics, they freaked out. They were like, oh my God, this is so wrong. This is awful. How dare he say this about Taylor Swift? This is disgusting. This is despicable. This should never be allowed. It's misogyny. Remember, her brand is feminism. So of course these lines were not okay. And then Kanye West wanted to calm them down. They came out and they said, oh, I called Taylor Swift about this line. It's all good, guys. Stop freaking out. And they looked at her and said, oh my gosh, Taylor Swift, did you say this was okay? The Swifties were like, oh no, how could you say this? And so Taylor Swift had her rep issue a statement, and this statement read, Kanye did not call for approval, but to ask Taylor to release his single Famous on her Twitter account. She declined and cautioned him about releasing a song with such a strong misogynistic message. Taylor was never made aware of the actual lyric, I made that famous. Wow. When I read that statement to you, what did you get from it? Well, you obviously got that Kanye lied. They had a conversation about the song, and she said to him, in very strong terms, obviously, no, this is very misogynistic. Do not release this song. Except that's not what happened. It's clearly not what happened. You're going to be shocked. I want you to really listen to this because it's one of the reasons I will never like Taylor Swift and why Black America will never like Taylor Swift. Because that was a manipulative rep statement that she released. Unbeknownst to her, Kanye West had cameras on him at the time that they had the conversation. And his then wife, Kim Kardashian, released the phone call. Listen to the conversation.
Oh gosh. Stop the ads.
The reason why it will be happening is because it has a very controversial line at the beginning of the song about you.
What does it say?
Okay. Wait a second, you sound sad.
Well, is it gonna be mean?
No, I don't think it's mean.
Okay, then let me hear it.
So it says, to all my South Side that know me best, I feel like Taylor Swift might owe me sex.
That's not mean.
Okay. Yeah, because we tried to make it nicer. So what I said is, for all my South Side that know me best, I feel like me and Taylor might still have sex. And my wife was really not with that one. She was way more into the she owes you sex. But then the O part was like the feminist group type that I was like,
That's the part
yeah.
that's gonna kind of, I mean, they're both really edgy, but that's the only thing about that line is that it's like, it's just the feminists are gonna come out. But I mean, you don't give a so.
Yeah, basically. Well, what I give a about is just you as a person and as a friend. I want things that make you feel good. I don't want to do rap that makes people feel bad. Like, okay, now what if later in the song I was also to have said, I made her famous? Is that
Did you say that?
Yes, it might have happened.
Oh God. Well, what am I gonna do about it?
Do the hair flip.
Yeah, I mean, it's just kind of like whatever at this point.
Yeah.
But I mean, just you got to tell the story the way that it happened to you and the way that you experienced it. Like you honestly didn't know who I was before that. Like it doesn't matter if I sold 7 million of that album before you did that, which is what happened. You didn't know who I was before that. It's fine.
Yeah.
Okay, can I just say, like, they're really trying to use this videotape to show that Taylor Swift is a terrible person, and she sounds very uncomfortable to me on the phone. I have a friend, like, that's, reminds me of her, white as well, all of this stuff, and she, like, if she's very uncomfortable in a conversation, she's almost like a people pleaser, and so, like, she can very much be uncomfortable in a conversation and still sort of, like, seem like she's getting along with you, like how she's appeasing you, even though she's very uncomfortable. Sometimes people have to process, so just because this is what Taylor said in the moment, especially women can be put in these situations that they're people pleasers, and Taylor looks like a people pleaser, but they're people pleasers, and they're okay, they're uncomfortable, but like they're just processing what you said, and they realize that like, so I like this, using this to bury Taylor and say she's like disingenuous or whatever is a little bit weird. The part where she said the feminist, that was weird to me. That was a little disingenuous. That's the only part that I thought was weird, where she was like, oh, the feminists won't like it, because she acts like she's a feminist, and to say the feminist is a question of, do you really stand by feminism, or do you only use it as a tool? So that's the only critique I would say. But other than that, the whole conversation doesn't even sound like she was comfortable. So I would give her a pass on this.
But yeah, I can't wait to hear it.
So there you have the conversation. And by the way, you can pursue it in its entirety. I'm not trying to cut it down to make her look bad whatsoever. What comes across actually, as you hear it, is that he brings up feminism to her and says, I was going to make this line that you owe me sex, but then I was sort of like, like, what are the feminists going to say? And then she agrees and says, yeah, the feminists won't like that. So he changes the line to, me and Taylor might still have sex, and tells her that he cares about her feelings in all of this. He was being very careful not to upset her as a person, he says. And yet you didn't get that, of course, from her statement that she released.
And we know that Kanye West could be like that in one moment, because she's really trying to make us feel like, oh, we should empathize with Kanye. He could be like that in one moment and still be the complete opposite in the next moment. So that doesn't really mean anything, watching Kanye, navigate in those spaces. We see Kanye West all the time, throwing black people under the bus whenever it's convenient, but now all of a sudden when he's being marginalized, when he's being whatever, all of a sudden he's a black man and, oh, black community, stand up for me. Like yesterday, he just asked all the black community, stand up for me. Adidas is trying to rape, like. So, like, Kanye West is wish-washy, doesn't mean anything.
To her rep, because she wasn't expecting her fans to be so angry about the line. So she just flipped on him publicly. And then when those phone calls were leaked, it made her look very bad, and she held on to that anger for so long that she then did something horrific to Scooter Braun to right that perceived wrong, right? Oh my God, now people are seeing that I'm actually quite manipulative, and I'm gonna get even with Scooter Braun, because Scooter Braun at that time, when that song was released, was Kanye's manager. That is how she works, that is how she operates. There have been many men that have come out and said things like this. Calvin Harris talked about Taylor Swift using the media to her benefit when they broke out and leaking the fact that her vocals were used on a song which they had agreed to keep private. Katy Perry came out and said that she was a wolf in sheep's clothing, notoriously. Many artists have been trying to communicate that the way that she behaves publicly and privately is very different. And what I refer to all of this as is toxic feminism, right?
I mean, leave feminism out of it, but what I will say is that I have heard some behind the scenes stuff about Taylor Swift manipulating and using her fan base to bully people that don't comply with her agenda. So I've heard about that, and she pretends like she doesn't know what she's doing. So I have heard that, from close sources. So I'm not putting it against her, but it's not, for me, I'm not here to fight the Taylor Swift battle. I could care less. I just really want to point out, don't fall for the Candace Owens trap of connecting with you in something that you may agree with, or enjoy, because people get a lot of confusion. They don't understand how propaganda works. And I just want to let you guys know that just because she's releasing videos lately that seem a little bit more palatable and nice, and she's hilarious, does not mean that when she tells you to go and vote for Donald Trump, and she's seamlessly pushing that into the propaganda of her content, when she tells you to go vote for Donald Trump in the fall, when she starts pushing white supremacist ideology on you, don't act like she switched up on you. She's easing her way to being the voice of young Black America, especially Black women. Black America too, the manosphere, they love her. The manosphere love her, the conservative Black women. And you can be, the thing about the word conservative is so crazy to me, because I can be a conservative individual and not support stuff like Sexy Red and all that stuff. I can be, conservative with my person. I could be Christian, with my person. Does not mean that I have to support white supremacy. So she's using her intersectionality And she thinks that conservatives can gatekeep those things. You can't. She's using her intersectionality to manipulate us into supporting her white supremacist agenda. And you got to be careful. You got to just watch out for what she's doing. I can agree with Candace Owens. Like they say, a broken clock is right twice a day. But when you go into the deep-rooted, the deep-seated thing that is funding the vehicle that is funding Candace Owens, that allows her to even, because she doesn't own that show, she doesn't own the studio she's in, she doesn't own any of that. So that vehicle that is pushing her has a white supremacist agenda. So black people, black women, black America, don't be fooled. Don't be fooled by this BS, because when Massa tells Candace Owens, this is what you're going to say, this is the white supremacist rhetoric that we want you to push, she's going to say, yes, Massa. So don't be stupid. Don't be stupid.
She's pretending to be a feminist, but in reality, she is just business savvy, and she's also someone that knows that if you hurt her, she can send an entire hive of young girls to attack you. So that's the answer. There's never going to be a time in American history where black women get on board with Taylor Swift, because being Taylor Swift means never having to say that you're sorry, never having to say that you're wrong, but instead manipulating a young fan base to believe that no matter what happened, you were the victim. I'm not young. I'm the same age as you, Taylor Swift. You're going to be 35 this year. I think it's time to grow up and let go.
So she's right. She's right. Like again, just because I agree with her this time doesn't mean anything. What Taylor Swift represents is dangerous. Taylor Swift represents white girl tears. Taylor Swift is the perpetual victim, and she yields her victimhood to sort of push for, her own personal desires. This is what we see white girls doing, and this is what Taylor Swift is the pinnacle of, and this is why black women don't like Taylor Swift. But we don't need Candace Owens to tell us this. We don't need to use that to pedestalize Candace Owens. Don't fall for the okie doke. Don't fall for the okie doke, because Candace Owens also does not, she supports white girl tears when the payments come through. That's what she does. When the payments are coming through from the white supremacist, Candace Owens will take that check. So if you're living in walking contradiction, you only support black causes when it's convenient for you. Girl, sit down and be quiet. Now, I want to play this video of Taylor Swift with her, what they call toxic femininity, or toxic, not femininity, but toxic feminism is what Candace called it.
Most rage-provoking element of being a female is the gaslighting that happens when, for centuries we've been just expected to absorb. The most rage-provoking element of being a female is the gaslighting that happens when, for centuries we've been just expected to absorb male behavior silently, right? Silent absorption of whatever any guy decides to do. And oftentimes when we, in our enlightened state and our emboldened state now, respond to bad male behavior or somebody just doing something that was absolutely out of line, and we respond, that response is treated like the offense itself.
Yeah.
There's been situations recently with somebody who's very guilty of this in my life, and it's a person who makes me feel, or tries to make me feel, like I'm the offender by having any kind of defense. The most rage-provoking element of being...
So, this is so powerful what she said, and it's so true. But see how she quickly turned herself into a victim in 2 seconds. Like, she didn't even wait. In fact, the whole thing was about her being a victim. But, I posted this, and my friend commented, which was very interesting. And he said, my only issue is that white women can be this insightful on feminism and patriarchy and then be completely ignorant about racism and white supremacy when the parallels are clear as day. And that's it. I'm not saying that Taylor Swift is... I'm not saying anything about Taylor Swift, I'm not saying anything either. But it's very interesting that on a societal level, how white women navigate. And, Taylor Swift always crying, always being the victim. This is what we experience from white women in real life, the entitlement and all these things. And this is why black women don't like Taylor Swift, because, and I won't say all black women because I love Taylor Swift, and I can put all my differences aside. The only time when I look at her sideways is when they put her in context with Beyonce, or they give her awards that are supposed to go to Beyonce. That's the only time where you'll get me like riled up against Taylor Swift. But really and truly, I understand. I have the capability of thinking objectively and not letting one thing manipulate another component that has nothing to do with it. So what do I mean by that? I have the ability to say, okay, I like Taylor Swift, and I am against white supremacy and everything that it represents, and I am going to do everything in service of black empowerment. And I could still like Taylor Swift and maybe not support her because this part about black empowerment is more important to me. And that's the message I want you guys to understand about Candace Owens. Just because we can agree with Candace Owens and the content she's making recently, we relate with it. The degeneracy in black America that is being pushed by the music industry, all these things, the Taylor Swift and blah, blah, blah. We can agree with her, but we don't have to support the people that are backing her and what she represents, which is white supremacy herself. So just be very careful, navigate the world, be an independent thinker, be a sovereign thinker. You know, you don't need Candace Owens to force ideas down your throat. Think for yourself. Anyway, those are my thoughts. Let me know your thoughts. Leave a comment down below. Don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, all the above. You're watching The Candace Show, and I'm your host, Candace. And I'll see you next time. A peace.